A billionaire wanted to test if his fiancée truly loved him, so he pretended to be blind. But the truth he uncovered destroyed everything. Stay with me. Let's dive in and find out what really happened. George was a billionaire, young, handsome, and generous. He owned one of the largest oil and gas companies in Nigeria, with headquarters in Lagos and branches across West Africa. He had everything: money, fame, and a heart full of love for one woman, Linda. He loved her so much and believed she loved him too. One evening, under the soft glow of candlelight at a rooftop restaurant in Victoria Island, George knelt down on one knee and pulled out a shining diamond ring. "Linda, will you marry me?" he asked with a big smile. Linda gasped, covering her mouth in excitement. "Yes! Yes, 1,000,000 times yes!" she screamed, hugging him tight. The news of their engagement spread like wildfire. Everyone congratulated them, but there was one person who wasn't too happy: George's mother, Mrs. Joyce. "My son, are you sure Linda truly loves you?" Mrs. Joyce asked, her face serious. "Of course, Mama. Linda is not after my money. She loves me for who I am," George replied confidently. Mrs. Joyce shook her head. "You are too trusting, my son. You need to test her love. A woman's true heart is known in times of hardship." George frowned. "Mama, I don't need to test her. She already proved her love." His mother sighed. "If you are so sure, then there's no harm in testing her, right?" George hesitated for a moment, then he nodded. "Fine, I will do it, but she will pass the test. I am sure of it." George went to the hospital in Lekki and spoke to his doctor. "Doctor, I need your help. I want to fake an eye injury to see if Linda truly loves me," he explained. The doctor was surprised but agreed to help. They wrapped thick bandages around George's eyes and head, making him look badly injured. He was placed on the hospital bed with machines beeping around him. When everything was set, the doctor picked up the phone and called Linda. "Hello, is this Miss Linda?" the doctor asked. "Yes, I am, Linda. Who is this?" "I am Dr. Okafor. I am calling from Lagoon Hospital. Your fiancé, Mr. George, was in a terrible accident. He is in a critical condition. Please come immediately." Linda's heart nearly stopped. "Oh my God, I'm on my way," she cried, grabbing her car keys and running out of the house. When Linda arrived at the hospital, she ran straight into the emergency room. She gasped when she saw George lying on the bed, his eyes completely covered in bandages, his head wrapped tightly. Tears filled her eyes. "Oh my love, what happened?" she sobbed, rushing to his side. George opened his mouth weakly and tried to smile. "Linda, I'm sorry. I don't know if I'll ever see again," he whispered. Linda cried even harder. "No, don't say that. You will see again. I will take care of you, my love." She ran to meet the doctor in his office. "Doctor, please tell me the truth. What is happening to my fiancé?" she asked, her voice shaking. The doctor sighed, shaking his head. "Miss Linda, the accident was very bad. I don't think he will be able to see again. His optic nerves are completely damaged." Linda's whole body felt weak. She held the chair for support. No, this can't be happening," she whispered. She left the doctor's office in tears and went straight to her mother's house in Surulere. Linda's mother, Mrs. Grace, was preparing dinner when Linda stormed into the house, her face full of tears. "Mommy, I don't know what to do." "George had an accident, and the doctor said he may never see again," she cried. Her mother's face changed. "What do you mean he can't see again?" she asked, frowning. Linda wiped her tears. "Mommy, I love him, but I'm still young. I don't know if I can spend the rest of my life leading a blind man around." Mrs. Grace sighed. "Linda, love is not just about enjoying the good times. Marriage is for better or worse." Linda shook her head. "Mommy, I don't know if I can do this. What if I end up suffering?" Her mother placed a hand on her chin and thought for a while. Then she said, "You have to be smart about this. Do you want to be tied down to a man who can't see? You are too young for this kind of burden. Let's think carefully." Linda looked at her mother, confused. "Mommy, what do you mean?" Her mother smirked. "We have Rose in this house, don't we?" "She can take care of him." Linda's eyes widened. "Rose? My cousin? The one we treat like a housemaid?" Her mother nodded. "Yes. Since she's the one always washing and cooking in this house, Let her go to the hospital and be the one to take care of George. Let her suffer for you. Linda wiped her tears. A small smile appeared on her lips. That's true. Rose will take care of him. I can't suffer because of love. Mrs. Grace smiled. Good. Now go to bed. Tomorrow we will send Rose to the hospital. The next day, Linda went to the hospital and looked at George with pity. She held his hand and said, My love, I'm sorry, but I can't take care of you. You deserve someone who can do it better. George's heart broke. Linda, what are you saying? Linda turned her face away. I have asked Rose to take care of you. She will be coming to the hospital every day to look after you. George's eyes filled with tears behind the bandages. His heart felt like it had been stabbed. Linda stood up. I have to go now. Get well soon. She left without looking back. As George lay there, tears rolled down his cheeks from under the bandages. He now knew the truth. The woman he loved with all his heart had abandoned him in his weakest moment. But what Linda didn't know was that George wasn't really blind. This was all a test. George had been discharged and sat in his grand mansion in Banana Island, positioned near the glass window overlooking his lush garden. His heart was heavy, but his mind was clear. Linda had failed the test, but he wasn't done yet. Rose, Linda's cousin, was now his caretaker. She was quiet, humble, and hardworking, the complete opposite of Linda. Even though life had never been fair to her, she never complained. Now she was the one cooking, feeding, and guiding George around without a single sign of irritation. One afternoon, George took his phone and dialed Linda's number. She answered after a few rings. Hello, baby, she said sweetly. Linda, I need you here at the mansion, George said, his voice calm but firm. For what? Linda asked. I want you to take care of me yourself. I don't want Rose to do it anymore. Linda hesitated. Baby, I just got a new job. I don't have time to do all that. Rose will continue taking care of you. She's already used to it. George chuckled bitterly. Linda, I am your fiancée. You mean you have no time to take care of the man you want to marry? Linda sighed dramatically. Baby, please understand me. I need to work. You know I love you, but I also have my life to live. I promise I will come to see you later, okay? All right, George said simply, then ended the call. He stared into space, shaking his head. He already knew what was happening. Linda was avoiding him. Days passed and Linda barely visited the mansion. She always had one excuse or another. I'm so busy at work. I'm tired. I have a meeting today. Traffic on 3rd Mainland Bridge was too much. I couldn't come. But while Linda kept avoiding him, Rose was the one staying by his side. She would wake up early in the morning to clean his room, prepare his meals, and help him navigate around the house. She didn't rush or complain. She would smile and say, Sir George, your food is ready. When she guided him outside for fresh air, she would sit beside him and talk with him about anything he wanted. George noticed how much effort she put into taking care of him. Even when she was tired, she still made sure he was comfortable. One night after dinner, George listened as Rose cleared the dishes. He could hear the exhaustion in her movements. Rose, come and sit down, he said. Rose wiped her hands and hesitated. Sir, I am fine. I said sit, George repeated. She obeyed, sitting on the couch across from him. Why are you doing all this? He asked suddenly. Rose looked confused. I don't understand, sir. You are not my fiancée. You don't owe me anything. So why are you doing all this? Why are you taking care of me like this? Rose lowered her gaze. Because I know what it feels like to be abandoned. George raised an eyebrow behind his sunglasses. What do you mean? Rose took a deep breath. My parents died when I was 8 in a car accident on Ouray Road. That's how I came to live with Linda's family. Auntie Grace never treated me like family. I was always the one cleaning, washing, and cooking while Linda got everything she wanted. But I never complained. I just did what I had to do. George remained silent. He didn't know Rose had been through so much. She smiled faintly. I know what it means to be unwanted, sir. And I don't want you to feel that way. That's why I'm here. George felt something stir in his chest. Unlike Linda, who always worried about her comfort, Rose was selfless. He took a deep breath. His mother had been right all along. Love is not about words, it is about action. Meanwhile, Linda was busy enjoying her life, Since George was now blind, she had started acting like she wasn't engaged anymore. She went out with her friends, partied at clubs in Lekki and Viwami, and even started entertaining other rich men who were interested in her. One evening, her friend Blessing confronted her. "Linda, why haven't you been going to the mansion to see George?" Linda rolled her eyes. "Blessing, I'm too young to waste my life leading a blind man around. If I go there often, George will expect me to stay." "No, I can't do that." "But he's your fiancé," Blessing exclaimed. Linda smirked. "So what? He proposed to me when his eyes were fine. But now the doctor says he may never see again. I can't marry a blind man. What kind of future will I have with him? Please, Blessing, I'm still too young to tie myself to a life like that." Blessing sighed deeply, shaking her head. "So the accident is that bad that he can't see again? Such a fine man. His life wasted just like that." Linda exhaled, looking away. "I pity him, Blessing. Yes, I feel bad too, but unfortunately I can't continue my life with a blind man. I have dreams, a future. I just can't." Back at the mansion, George observed Rose carefully. He saw how she genuinely cared for him. One evening, as Rose guided him towards the garden, he looked in her direction and asked, "Rose, do you ever wish for a better life?" Rose chuckled. "Everyone does, sir. But what if someone offered you a better life? What if someone wanted to take care of you for a change?" Rose smiled but shook her head. "Sir, I don't do things for rewards. I am taking care of you because I want to, not because I expect anything in return." George's heart softened. For the first time, he saw true love, not the kind that came with empty words, but the kind that came with actions. And it wasn't from Linda, it was from Rose. George knew what he had to do next. George sat in his mansion, staring in the direction of the garden through the glass window. His mind was heavy with thoughts when his mother, Mrs. Joyce, walked in. Mrs. Joyce looked at her son, still wearing bandages over his eyes, and shook her head. "George, where is your fiancée?" she asked. "The woman you claimed loved you so much." George opened his mouth but couldn't find the right words. His mother sighed. "With this your condition now, you will go to Linda's house, meet her family, and tell them you still want to continue with the marriage procedure. If she accepts, then you will know she truly loves you. But if she turns you down, then you will know she was never yours to begin with." George hesitated for a moment, then slowly nodded. "All right, Mama. I will go." The next day, George was guided into Linda's house in Surulere. He met Linda sitting in the living room, scrolling through her phone with a relaxed expression. Her mother was in the kitchen, and her father was watching the news. As soon as Linda saw him being let in by his driver, her face changed, but she quickly forced a smile. "Baby, you didn't tell me you were coming," she said, standing up awkwardly. George turned toward her voice and took a deep breath. "I came to tell your family that I am ready to continue with our wedding plans," he said. Linda's father looked pleased. "Yes, we will continue." "That's good news, son. You're a good man and we support the marriage," he said. But Linda's mother frowned. Her lips twisted in disapproval as she folded her arms across her chest. Linda's face turned pale. She swallowed hard, then took a deep breath. "George, I can't do this," she finally said. George's hands clenched. "What do you mean?" "I mean I can't marry you." "I'm so sorry," Linda said, looking away. Her mother cleared her throat. "We are sorry, George." "You will find another woman," she added coldly. George felt like his heart had just shattered into 1,000 pieces. He had known the truth all along, but hearing it from Linda's mouth still hurt deeply. Without another word, his driver helped him turn around and let him out of the house. As he left, Linda's father sighed. "Linda, are you sure about this?" Linda nodded quickly. "Yes, Daddy. I can't waste my life taking care of a blind man." Her mother smiled. "You made the right decision, my dear. You are still young. You will find another rich man." But they had no idea what fate had in store for them. The next day, Rose arrived at George's mansion with a bowl of fresh pepper soup she had prepared for him. She placed it on the table and smiled. "Sir George, I made you something warm." George turned toward her voice, his heart filled with emotions. "Rose, sit down," he said. Rose obeyed, looking at him curiously. "Is everything all right, sir?" George took a deep breath and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small, beautiful ring. "Rose, will you marry me?" Rose's eyes widened. Her hands covered her mouth in shock. "Sir George, are you serious?" George smiled. "You have proven to me what love really means. You have shown me kindness, care, and loyalty when I had nothing to give in return. And now I want to give you my heart." Tears welled up in Rose's eyes. She had never imagined that a man like George would ask for her hand in marriage. "Yes, yes, I will marry you," she cried, throwing her arms around him. George sighed in relief. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly happy. Late that evening, Rose went home and told Linda and her aunt about the engagement. "George proposed to me," Rose announced happily, "and I accepted." Linda and her mother exchanged glances before bursting into laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha! No problem, you have our full support," Linda said, wiping a fake tear from her eye. Her aunt smirked. "Yes, my dear, since you enjoy suffering, go ahead and lead your blind husband around for life." Linda crossed her legs and picked up her phone. "I can't wait to see you wearing a wedding gown and holding your husband's hand everywhere," she said mockingly. Rose ignored the mockery and walked to her room. Deep inside, she knew she was making the right choice. A month later, the grand wedding took place at a beautiful church in Ikoyi. Despite wearing dark glasses to cover his bandaged eyes, George looked charming in his white agbada, while Rose looked breathtaking in her wedding gown. It was a small but beautiful ceremony attended by only close family and friends. Linda and her mother didn't bother to attend. They were too busy celebrating Linda's freedom. After the wedding, George and Rose went on their honeymoon to a luxurious private resort in Calabar. On their second night, Rose was arranging their things when she heard a sound behind her. She turned around and gasped. George was standing up, removing the bandages from his eyes. "Rose," George said softly, blinking his eyes and looking straight at her. Rose's heart pounded. "George! You can see?" George smiled. "Yes, Rose. I was never truly blind. It was all a test of love." Rose covered her mouth in shock, tears running down her face. "You mean you were never really blind?" George shook his head. "No, my love. I needed to see who truly cared for me beyond my wealth, and you, Rose, are the only woman who stood by my side." Rose ran to him, hugging him tightly as fresh tears of joy poured down her cheeks. Linda had rejected him because of his condition, but Rose had accepted him with all her heart, and now she was the one standing beside him as his wife. George held her close and whispered, "You are the real queen, Rose, and I will spend the rest of my life proving it to you." After their honeymoon, George drove his sleek black Range Rover into his mother's mansion in Asokoro. His heart was filled with gratitude. As he stepped out of the car, he adjusted his agbada and walked toward the grand entrance. Mrs. Joyce was sitting in the large living room, watching a Nollywood movie when George walked in. She looked up, surprised but pleased. "George, my son, you can see," his mother exclaimed with a proud smile. George smiled back. "Yes, Mama, and I came here to thank you." His mother raised an eyebrow. "Thank me?" George sighed and sat down beside her. "Mama, I was blind, not with my eyes, but with my heart. I was so sure Linda loved me, and I didn't even imagine things would turn out like this. But now I see clearly. Rose is gold. She has proven what true love is." His mother nodded knowingly. "My son, I know women. That's why I told you to test Linda. Love is not about sweet words and fake promises. It is about standing by someone through all conditions." George took a deep breath. "You were right, Mama. Rose was there when I pretended to be blind. She treated me with kindness and respect, not because of my money, but because she truly cared." Mrs. Joyce smiled. "That's why she is now your wife. A woman who stands by you in tough times is a woman who deserves to enjoy your good times." George stood up and hugged his mother. "Once again, Mama, thank you for opening my eyes." His mother patted his back. "I only guided you, but it was up to you to see the truth. And now you have found real love." The next day, George decided to take Rose out to a fancy restaurant at the Echo Hotel. It was a beautiful evening, and the atmosphere was perfect. Rose wore a stunning blue ankara gown, her beauty glowing under the restaurant's warm lights. As they sat, laughing and enjoying their meal, someone spotted them. "Blessing." Blessing's eyes nearly popped out of her head. Wait, is that George? She whispered to herself. She blinked rapidly, unable to believe what she was seeing. George was looking around, clearly able to see. Not only that, but Rose looked completely transformed. Her beauty was undeniable. Without wasting a second, Blessing grabbed her purse and rushed out of the restaurant, straight to Linda's house. She burst into the living room, breathing heavily. Linda! You won't believe who I just saw, she said, struggling to catch her breath. Linda rolled her eyes. Who? She asked lazily, scrolling through her phone. Blessing grabbed Linda's phone from her hands. Linda, it's George and Rose. Linda frowned. And so? Blessing held her shoulders and shook her lightly. Linda, George can see. Linda's phone almost slipped from her hands. What? She gasped. Yes, he is perfectly fine. And Linda, you won't believe it, Rose is stunning. She looked like a queen sitting beside George. Linda stood up immediately. Are you serious? Blessing nodded. 100% serious. Linda didn't waste any time. She grabbed her car keys and rushed out of the house, heading straight to George's mansion in Banana Island. When Linda arrived at George's mansion, she rang the bell impatiently. After a few seconds, the door opened, and there stood Rose. Rose smiled politely. Sister Linda, you are welcome. Come in. Linda ignored the invitation and folded her arms. Where is George? Rose still smiled. He has gone to the office. Linda's face twisted in anger. You are very wicked, Rose. So you didn't tell me my man could see again? You wanted to keep it a secret so you could have him all to yourself? Rose remained calm. Sister Linda, George is my husband now. I didn't hide anything from you. You never even asked about him. Linda scoffed. Shut up. You think you have one, right? Let me see how long you will enjoy him. At that moment, George's Range Rover pulled into the driveway. As he stepped out, Linda's heart leaped. Without thinking, she ran to him and hugged him tightly. Oh, baby, I missed you so much. I'm so happy you can see again. George frowned and pushed her away gently. Linda, what are you doing here? Linda looked up at him, her eyes filled with fake tears. George, I'm so sorry. I was foolish. I let my mother deceive me. But I swear, I love you. Please forgive me. George shook his head and sighed. Linda, I was never in any accident. Linda's body stiffened. My mother arranged for me to test you, to see if you truly love me. I was so sure you would prove my mama wrong, but you proved her right. You loved my money, not me. Linda covered her mouth in shock. Oh my God! George looked straight into her eyes. Do you remember the day I came to your house and told your family I wanted to proceed with the wedding? You rejected me. You told me you couldn't waste your life taking care of a blind man. Linda fell to her knees. George, please, I didn't know. I was deceived. I love you, I swear. George shook his head. Linda, please leave my house. I am already married, and not just to anyone, but to your cousin, the woman who stood by me when you walked away. Tears streamed down Linda's face. No! This is not happening. George, please, give me one more chance. George turned away. Rose, please close the door. Rose stepped forward, and for the first time, she wasn't the quiet, scared cousin anymore. Sister Linda, you once laughed at me and said I would suffer for the rest of my life, but now I have found love and happiness. Please go home. Linda wiped her tears and stood up, glaring at Rose. You think you have won, don't you? You took my man and my happiness. Rose sighed. Sister Linda, you lost him yourself. Linda ran out of the house, tears blinding her vision as she drove home furious to face her mother. But George had moved on, and this was just the beginning of his new life with Rose. Linda stormed into the house, slamming the door behind her. Her heart was racing with anger and regret. Her mother, Mrs. Grace, was sitting in the living room, watching TV with a satisfied smile on her face. But as soon as she saw Linda's expression, she frowned. What is wrong with you? Why are you looking like someone who just saw a ghost? Her mother asked, muting the TV. Linda's hands shook with rage. Mommy, you deceived me. You made me leave George. You told me I was too young to suffer. But now look at me. Look at where I am. Her mother rolled her eyes. Oh, please. What are you talking about? You should be thanking me. Do you know how many rich men are out there? Linda pointed a shaky finger at her mother. George was the best man for me and I lost him. He was never blind. It was all a test, and I failed. Mrs. Grace's eyes widened in shock. What? What do you mean it was a test? Linda laughed bitterly. Exactly what I said. He was never blind. His mother made him test me to see if I truly loved him. And I showed him my true colors. And now Rose is his wife. Mrs. Grace gasped and clutched her chest. That cannot be. No, it's not possible. Linda's tears fell freely. It is possible, Mommy. And it's your fault. You told me to abandon him. You told me to leave him because he was blind. Now look, Rose has taken my place. Mrs. Grace stood up. How dare you blame me? Did I force you to leave him? Didn't I give you the choice? You should have used your brain, Linda. Linda wiped her face with her arms. Mommy, I was foolish. I listened to you. I didn't think for myself. And now I've lost the only man that ever truly loved me. Just then, Linda's father, Mr. Emeka, walked in carrying his briefcase. He paused at the door and frowned at the loud argument. What is going on in this house? He asked, looking from his daughter to his wife. Linda turned to him, her face red with frustration. Daddy, Mommy deceived me. She made me leave George, and now he is married to Rose. Mr. Emeka sighed and shook his head. I told you, Linda. I warned you not to follow your mother's footsteps, but you refused to listen. Now you must live with your choices. Linda collapsed onto the couch, sobbing bitterly. Daddy, I regret everything. I should have stood by him. I should have proven my love. Her father sat beside her and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Linda, it is too late. George is no longer your man. He is married to your cousin, and you must respect that. Linda looked up at her father, her face filled with pain. Daddy, what do I do? Her father exhaled deeply. Move on. Forget about George. He is happy now. Don't disturb him. Linda swallowed hard and nodded, but deep inside she knew she would never forgive herself. As she sat in regret, her mother sat beside her, looking just as defeated. For the first time in a long time, Mrs. Grace realized that her own greed and selfishness had ruined her daughter's future. But there was nothing they could do. George was gone, and he wasn't coming back. Several months later, life for George and Rose was more beautiful than they could have ever imagined. The morning sun streamed through the windows of their luxurious bedroom in Banana Island, casting a warm glow over the nursery they had prepared. Rose sat in a comfortable rocking chair, cradling one baby in her arms while George sat beside her, holding the other. Their twins, a boy and a girl, had been born just 2 weeks ago, and every day felt like a dream. George looked down at his son, who had his eyes, and smiled. Look at him, Rose. He's so peaceful. He gently rocked the baby boy, who was wrapped in a soft blue blanket. Rose gazed lovingly at their daughter in her arms, dressed in a delicate pink outfit. And look at our princess. She's so beautiful, just like her grandmother Joyce said. The twins had brought an indescribable joy into their home. George couldn't stop staring at his children, overwhelmed with gratitude. Rose, do you remember when you first came to take care of me? When everyone else abandoned me? Rose nodded, tears of joy forming in her eyes. Yes, my love. I remember everything. George reached over with his free hand and held hers. You stood by me when I had nothing to offer. You didn't know if I would ever see again, but you stayed. And now look at us. We have everything. A beautiful home, a thriving business, and these 2 precious angels. Rose smiled through her happy tears. God has been faithful to us, George. We've been blessed beyond measure. Just then, their baby girl stirred and opened her tiny eyes. Rose cooed softly. Oh, she's awake. Hello, my angel. Mama's here. George stood up carefully, still holding their son, and walked over to the window. He looked out at the beautiful view of Lagos, his heart full of contentment. You know, Rose, my oil and gas company has never done better. But all the money in the world means nothing compared to this moment. Holding my son, watching you with our daughter. This is true wealth. Rose stood up and joined him by the window, and together they stood as a family, George holding their son, Rose cradling their daughter. "We've been through so much to get here," Rose said softly, "but it was all worth it." George turned to look at his wife, his eyes shining with love. "You are the strongest woman I know, Rose. You gave me love when I thought I had lost everything. You gave me hope, and now you've given me these two beautiful children. I promise you, I will spend every day of my life making sure you and our babies never lack anything." Rose leaned her head on his shoulder. "We don't need anything else, my love. We have each other, and we have our family. That's more than enough." The baby boy in George's arms began to coo, and both parents laughed softly. "I think he agrees with his mother," George said with a wide smile. There was a gentle knock on the door, and Mrs. Joyce walked in, her face glowing with happiness. "My grandchildren! Let me see them," she exclaimed, walking over quickly. George and Rose both smiled as his mother approached. "Mama, come and hold your grandson," George said, carefully transferring the baby boy into his mother's waiting arms. Mrs. Joyce looked down at the baby with so much love. "Oh, my grandson! You look just like your father when he was born." She rocked him gently, then looked up at Rose. "My daughter, you have made this family complete. Thank you for loving my son and giving us these beautiful grandchildren." Rose smiled warmly. "Thank you, Mama, for raising such a wonderful man. And thank you for teaching him the true meaning of love." Mrs. Joyce nodded knowingly. "Love is tested in hard times, my dear, and you passed the test with flying colors. That's why you're standing here today as his wife and the mother of his children." George walked over and put his arm around Rose's waist as she continued to hold their daughter. "Mama was right all along. If I hadn't tested Linda, I would have married the wrong woman. I would have missed out on this. On you, Rose, and on our beautiful family." Mrs. Joyce handed the baby boy back to George and took the baby girl from Rose's arms. "Look at this princess. Oh, she's going to be a heartbreaker when she grows up." She kissed the baby's forehead tenderly. "But don't worry, your daddy and grandma will make sure only the right man comes near you." They all laughed together, the sound of joy filling the room. As the afternoon sun continued to shine through the windows, George pulled Rose close, and together they watched as his mother doted on their twins. "This is what happiness looks like," George whispered to Rose. "This is what I was searching for all along." Rose looked up at him, her eyes full of love. "And we found it together." George kissed her forehead. "Together," he repeated, "and we'll continue this journey together, raising our children with love, teaching them the values that matter, and showing them what true love really means." As they stood there, George and Rose holding their twin babies, surrounded by love and family, they knew that they had not just found happiness, but they had found their purpose. Linda had walked away when times were hard, but Rose had stayed, and now Rose was living the life Linda had thrown away. In a house not too far away, Linda sat alone in her room, scrolling through social media. She came across a photo of George and Rose with their twins. Her heart sank as she read the caption, "Blessed beyond measure with my beautiful wife and our twin angels." True love was worth the wait. Family first, blessed life. Tears streamed down Linda's face as she stared at the photo. That could have been her. Those could have been her children. That could have been her life. But she had chosen material comfort over true love, and now she was left with nothing but regret. She clicked off her phone and lay on her bed, crying into her pillow. The price of her choice would haunt her forever. But George and Rose, they lived happily ever after, raising their twins in a home filled with love, laughter, and the kind of joy that money can never buy. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories.